So you are one of, if not the best, like fraudster investigators in the world. Was this on your radar at all, SPF, over the past couple of years? Were any red flags going off for you?
Yes. So funny enough, like one of my videos from 6 months ago or so blew up because I got to give a lot of credit to Matt Levine of Bloomberg, great journalist, great finance journalist. And I want to say when I talk about Media Elite, there are people doing great work in these mainstream institutions. It's not a monolith, just like independent media isn't all doing great work and all the corporate media is bad or whatever. There's like these overarching narratives that I don't subscribe to. So Matt Levine's a great journalist. He did an interview with SPF where he got Sam to basically describe a lot of what was going on in DeFi, but a kind of a larger philosophy around crypto. And he described a Ponzi scheme where he just described this black box. It does nothing. But if we ascribe it value, then we can create more value and more value and more value. And it kind of was this ridiculous description of a Ponzi scheme, but there was no moral judgment on it. It was like, oh yeah, this is great. We can make a lot of money from this. Mm-hmm. And Matt is like, well, it sounds like you're in the Ponzi business and business is good. Mm-hmm. I made a video about that. I said, this is ridiculous. This is absurd, whatever. It's obscene. But I didn't explicitly call SPF a fraud there. And I think if I'm being... I think I saw some of it, but like many people, I think a lot of us were kind of like, I think a lot of us missed how wrong everyone could be at the same time. Mm-hmm. I did notice leading up to the crash what was happening, and I called it out a day or a day and a half before it happened, because I saw my friends post Dirty Bubble Media. And this was the first real look into the heart of their finances, because they're this black box. So you just kind of had to evaluate them without knowing much. And once we got a peek under the hood of what their finances were, I realized, oh my gosh, these guys might be completely insolvent. So I made a tweet about it. I hope some people saw it and got their money out. But pretty quickly after that, I caught the narrative of what was really going on at Alameda, that it was basically this Ponzi scheme that they had built.
Do you ever sit like Batman in the dark since you fight crime and wonder, like sad, just staring into the darkness and thinking I should have caught this earlier?
Yeah, I think
in your $10 billion
$10 million
$10 million.
We're working our way there.
With a bunch of cocaine on the table.
It's never enough. It's never enough. Like, you always could be catching stuff sooner. You always could be doing more.
I mean, the fascinating thing you said is that one of the lessons here is that a large number of people, influential, smart people, could all be wrong at the same time in terms of their evaluation of SPF.
This is one thing that I don't understand too, is like, I think it's one thing to not see something. I think it's another thing to like rubber stamp or explicitly endorse. I feel like a lot of people didn't look too close at SPF because I think a lot of the warning signs were there. But my feeling is, if you're a Sequoia, if you're a BlackRock, wouldn't you do that due diligence? I mean, like,
yeah,
like before just endorsing something, especially in the crypto space. This is just why I don't do any deals in the crypto space ever. Because it's impossible to know which ones are going to be the like big hits or the big frauds or, you know, whatever. But if you're going to make that bet, if you're going to make that play, you would think that you would do all the research in the world and you would get sophisticated looks at their liabilities, at how they were structured, all that stuff. And that is the most shocking part, is not that, you know, people missed it, because you can miss fraud, but that there were so many glowing endorsements like, this guy is not going to be that thing. We explicitly endorse him. I saw a Fortune magazine. He was called the next Warren Buffett. It's just crazy.
Do you think it's possible to have enough like Tom Brady endorsements that you don't really investigate? So like,
yes,
that there's a kind of momentum, yes, like societal, social momentum.
I think that's the problem. I actually think that's hugely a blind spot of our society, is we have all these heuristics that can be points of failure, where like a rule of thumb is, if you go to an Ivy League, well, you must be smart. right? A rule of thumb is if both your parents are Harvard lawyers, you must know the law. You must like kind of be sophisticated. The rule of thumb is if you're running a $1 billion exchange, you must be somewhat ethical, right? And all of these heuristics can lead to giant blind spots where you kind of just go, oh, we'll check. Like it's a lot of energy to look into people. And if enough of those rules of thumb are met, we just kind of check them off and put them through the system. So yeah, it's been hugely exposing for sort of like our blind spots.
And you don't know maybe how to look in. For example, there's a few assumptions. Now, there's a lot of people are very skeptical of institutions, of government, and so on, but for, perhaps too much so.
I agree.
But for some part of history, there was too much faith in government.
Yeah.
And so right now, I think there's faith in certain large companies. There's distrust in certain ones and trust in others. Like people seem to distrust Facebook, extremely skeptical of Facebook. But they trust, I think, Google with their data. I think they trust Apple with their data.
Sure.
Much more so. Like search. People don't seem to be Google search. Like, I'm gonna
throw it in there.
Have you ever looked at your Google search history? Your Google search history has got to be some of the darkest things.
Oh, I don't think I've ever looked at my Google search history.
I'm
pretty careful with like browser hygiene and stuff like that because I think it's.
Well, Google search history, unless you explicitly delete, is there. I recommend you look at it. It's fascinating. Look, because it goes back to the first days of you using Google search history.
Fun fact, actually, about that. No. I am aware of that.
Yeah.
I just mean for like certain sensitive topics where like I'm investigating some fraud and I go sign into their website, right? Log in. I won't use like a traditional browser. I'll use a VPN and I'll like put it on like Brave or something like that.
You log in, you create an account as Lex Fridman.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.